Masaki Kobayashi is a fearlessly honest and ethically uncompromising film artist. A key filmmaker in Japan's post-war cinema, Kobayashi's works appealed to the society's collective conscience by confronting the scorching historical past and by exposing the contemporary social ills. Kobayashi began his filmmaking career with gorgeously shot social melodramas. But his risk-taking attitude emerged with films like Thick-Walled Room and Black River, which condemned the rampant corruption and hypocrisies in America-occupied Japan. The filmmaker's non-conformist and pacifist worldview repeatedly showed us how power structures delimit the individual agency. Kobayashi's deeply entrenched disdain for Japanese militarism not only depicted the horrific truths about the Pacific War, but also scrutinized the age-old demons of Japan's militarist heritage. Harakiri, the director's first period film, is a thrilling indictment of the oppressive hierarchical system in feudal Japan. It's a remarkable interpretation of the historical past upon which a society's sacred symbols are built. Seppuku, often addressed by the simplified term harakiri in the West, denotes the Japanese suicide ritual by self-disembowelment. It's a ritual that samurai undertook as honorable means of atoning for their disgrace or as a show of defiance. A samurai performing the ritual would use a short sword to slowly slash open his belly, exposing his guts, since the Eastern notion of a person's core being is said to reside in that region of the body. Only when a samurai warrior had fully cut open his belly, a kaishaku, the second assisting in the ritual, will use a long sword to commit the act of beheading. Screenwriter Shinobu Hashimoto's fascination for the physical details of seppuku is the basis for his adaptation of Takiguchi's story. Hashimoto's ingenious premise, built around the ghastly ritual, chronicled the clash between a despairing individual and a ruthless system. But in the individual's rebellion and in the crooked logic or codes of the feudal lords, Kobayashi saw the opportunity to challenge the authority that's devoid of humanity. Kobayashi opens Harakiri in the ceremonial room of the prosperous house of Ii, which houses the ancestral samurai armor. The smoke and the lighting emphasizes on the sacred authority of the symbolic figure. Accompanied by Toru Takemitsu's haunting music, Kobayashi's camera moves through the estate of the Ii clan. The symmetrical composition remains as a metaphor for systems of political power that controls and overpowers an individual. The Ii clan's journal notes that on a hot day in May 13, 1630, a poor, middle-aged, masterless samurai knocked on the gates of their vast mansion. The scruffy, weary-eyed warrior is Hanshiro Sugumo. He requests the clan's lord to allow him to perform seppuku on their grounds to find a noble death befitting a samurai. The smart senior counselor, Saito, admires the Ronin's resolve, but starts narrating the cruel fate of another Ronin. The 17th century was a relatively peaceful time in Japan, which was under the rule of Tokugawa shogunate, a hereditary military dictatorship. unemployed samurai wandered the lands and showed up at the gates of wealthy warrior houses, requesting to perform seppuku. Young Motome Shijiwa, however, was simply wagering on the informal practice of certain houses which either offered money or jobs to the Ronin instead of hosting the messy ritual. To Shijiwa's dismay, Saito, on the advice of his 3 best swordsmen, grants his request. It's a sly move to put a stop to the money extortion schemes. Shijiwa's predicament was such that he had to pawn his real swords to eke out a meager living. The arrogant swordsmen are disgusted by this, since their code says that a sword defines the samurai's soul. Without relenting a bit, the swordsman compelled Shijiwa to commit seppuku using his dull bamboo blades. The excruciating agony of Shijiwa's final moments is juxtaposed with the sneering glares of the clansmen. Upon hearing the story, Tsugumo assures Saito that his blades are real and he sticks with his intention. But when the cool-headed Tsugumo requests specific swordsmen belonging to the Ii clan to act as his second, the nature of his visit becomes clear. With his haunted eyes and somber voice, Tsugumo narrates his life story and the tragedy that befell his son-in-law Shijiwa, who never returned home alive to his ailing son and wife. Revenge isn't the sole motive of Tsugumo's visit to the house of Ii. Neither does he expect an official apology. Tsugumo values Shijiwa's compassion and humanity. But more than that, he discloses how his disgraced son-in-law is more honorable than the deceitful men of Ii. Before Harakiri, Kobayashi made the epic trilogy The Human Condition, which follows a pacifist man who is relentlessly drawn into the violence and brutality of war. Through the protagonist Kaji's suffering, Kobayashi denounced the institutions, policies, and the mindset that championed Japanese militarism. In Harakiri, Kobayashi strikes at the heart of his nation's military heritage. Feudal Japan's warrior classes were supposed to follow a virtue system that's collectively known as the Bushido Code. While Bushido has undergone many changes throughout Japanese history, it became a reified ideology during the Tokugawa era. Ironically, during this period of stable governance, samurai were gradually transformed into bureaucrats. Harakiri enables us to witness the terrible consequences of idealizing ossified precepts. It reveals how, by invoking a mythic past, inflexible power structures are created, and such authoritarian systems inculcate in an individual regressive beliefs and blind obedience. It's a heartbreaking moment when Tsugumo realizes that he himself has clung to the false notions of honor instead of saving his family. When Tsugumo lays bare the hypocrisies of Ii clan with a scornful laugh, Saito orders his retainers to attack him. During the last moments of the fight, Tsugumo takes the ancestral armor and tosses it to the ground, revealing that it's just an empty shell, just like the empty codes of the repressive authority. Harakiri opens and ends with the rigid perspective offered by the clan's journal. Saito distorts the events. He uses the machinery of power to crush the truth and maintain the status quo. The splatters of blood will be cleaned. The courtyard gravel is being delicately racked to its immaculate state. The top knots will be disposed of, and the desecrated ancestral armor is reassembled and is positioned in its seated posture. Sugumo's righteous anger and rebellion will live in our minds, but no one can escape the deceit of history.
$160本も映画に出て、今もうそろそろだと思ってますけども、まあ今までやった映画の仕事ではやっぱり腹切りが総合的な意味で、気に入ってる作品なんですけども。はい